Hi, I'm Corin Stemridge. I'm your library director at Cary Library, and today we're here to celebrate. So to start our celebration today, we have some members of the Lexington High School Madrigals to sing for us.
Glory be to God for double things, glory be for skies of copper, as a printed cast, to God for rose on stipples on traps that swing, glory be for fresh fire cold chestnut fall, inches wings, landscape potted as a piece, for fallow and plow, and all trades, their gear and tackle and trade. All things counter original, spell strange. Whatever is fickle, freckle, knows how we sweep so sweet, sour dazzle, ye fathers forth, whose beauty is past change. Praise
The members of the Madrigals will be back a little bit later to lead us in a sing-along. 150 years ago today, our historical counterparts walked through the doors of the first Cary Library. Mariah Hastings Carey made this first library possible through her gift to the town, and we honor her today, both as a woman who was ahead of her time and also as somebody who cared so deeply for the community in which she was raised. Today is an important day, one worth marking, and for that we've asked some of our community leaders to come and say a few words about this library. To start us off, Joe Pato, the chairman of the library's Board of Trustees.
I'm Joe Pato, chair of the trustees, and on behalf of all the trustees, many of whom are here and many of whom have been here for over 150 years, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 150th anniversary of the Cary Library. We, the trustees, are charged with overseeing the financial affairs, trust funds, fundraising activities, and to set policy for the operation of the library. This sounds kind of dry and boring, but we also have some unusual and creative opportunities. For example, coping with unruly visitors. I'm told that before my tenure, members of the trustees were actively involved in resolving issues with skunks and raccoons roaming the library at night. And at least one of the current trustees found a magician for today. So we are a creative group. But more fundamentally, we have the privilege of working with the library director, Corin, to make sure that the library continues to be a bright light in Lexington, an institution that fulfills its mission to ignite curiosity, to engage minds, and to connect our community. This focus on creating a stimulating environment that serves as a place where Lexington comes together has been a passion for the trustees throughout the library's history. For example, we work to make sure that changes in technology don't create isolation. 100 years ago, in 1919, this meant that the trustees were worried that the effects of radio on the reading public were going to have a detrimental effect. And they worked to make the library a compelling place that was used by residents more than ever. Today, we support innovation so that the library is constantly evolving to be that place that works for everyone. The fact that the trustees have always focused on creating a collaborative community here is no accident. I thank Mariah Hastings Carey for her thoughtful gift to the town for making this possible. This gift was both monetary and a social challenge. The terms of her gift required the town to commit to actively partner in building the collection. In addition, the gift stipulated that the trustees of the library would be a union of the social pillars of the town. We are the Board of Selectmen, devoted to civic engagement, the school committee, devoted to learning and the advancement of knowledge, and the settled clergy, devoted to the community's spiritual life. As a group, we come together to make sure that the library is a vibrant center of community life. Happy birthday to the Cary Memorial Library, and may we continue to see it serve the community for generations.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Susie Berry, who's the chair of the Board of Selectmen.
It truly is an honor and a privilege to be here this afternoon to celebrate such a monumental anniversary in our town's history. And I'm also joined this afternoon by my colleagues on the board, our Vice Chair, Doug Lucente, Selectman Joe Pato, Selectman Jill Hay, and there are several former selectmen in the audience, former Selectman Norma Cohen, former Selectman George Burnell, former Selectman Hank Manns is out there somewhere, and Michelle Sicolo, who served on the Board of Selectmen until this past December when she was elected our state representative, had hoped to be here today but had a conflict. She sends her well wishes, as does former Selectman Peter Kelly, who was out of state. So the board passed a proclamation in honor of this anniversary, and I will read that. Proclamation. Whereas in 1867, Mariah Hastings Carey sent a proposal to Lexington's Board of Selectmen that read, quote, having a regard for my native place and wishing to promote its welfare by diffusing knowledge among its inhabitants, end quote, Mrs. Carey offered the town $1,000 to help establish a free public library. And whereas the town of Lexington accepted Mrs. Carey's gift by a vote of town meeting on April 20th, 1868, and agreed to appropriate funds for an initial book collection to provide a building, maintain it properly, and to keep it open without charge to all the inhabitants. And whereas a board of trustees was established consisting of the selectmen, school committee, and the settled clergy to oversee the new library, and in gratitude to Mrs. Carey for her gift, it was agreed that the new library should bear her name. And whereas Cary Memorial Library opened to the public on January 27th, 1869, with an initial collection of 1,200 volumes, many donated by the community members. And whereas today, the Cary Memorial Library has a collection of 312,000 items, circulates 860,000 items annually, and welcomes more than 500,000 visitors each year. And whereas Cary Memorial Library is known to the citizens of Lexington as the intellectual hub of the town, a place where neighbors meet to read, learn, make, play, and engage. Now therefore we, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Lexington, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim January 27th, 2019 as Cary Memorial Library Day in the town of Lexington, and urge all citizens to celebrate Cary Memorial Library's 150 years of dedicated service to the residents. Signed, Suzanne E. Berry, Chairman, Douglas M. Lucente, Vice Chairman, Joseph N. Pato, Jill I. Hay, on January 7th, 2019.
Next, I'd like to welcome our town manager, Jim Malloy.
So I have sort of the easiest presentation here. I was asked to talk a little bit about my experience because this is the fifth community that I've worked for, comparing this library with other libraries, and I can truly say it's the best library of the 5 communities that I've worked for. And I'm not talking just about this beautiful building, it's the staff here and the programs and the engagement that the community has in it. Susie Berry mentioned a couple of the statistics of where this library is, but to give you an idea where it sits statewide, it's the 2nd overall in items borrowed in the entire state. It's 6th overall in total items borrowed. Items borrowed per hour open was the first one. And the second one is 6th overall in total items borrowed at the 869,000. The 16th overall in total circulation per capita. And we are by far the largest community included in the top 20. More than 500,000 visitors, as Susie Berry said, visit this library every year. But to put that in perspective, it's enough to fill Fenway Park 14 times. Wow. So This morning, before I came, because since I've been here, Corin and I have had a couple of very engaging conversations about modern libraries. And so I just wanted to give a couple of thoughts on what I think of modern libraries and how this library fits into that. One of the things that libraries offer free educational resources to everyone. There's no barrier or no limit to what type of educational resources people have available to them in this library. Libraries provide a safe refuge for the underserved populations in our communities. They help boost local economies by providing space for people to work. Their important role in English language learning. Libraries make communities healthier. They preserve history, and more importantly, the truth. Libraries help connect people within the communities. I just want to end with a quote from the renowned poet Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. This may surprise you. He says, "When you're growing up, there are two institutional places that affect you most powerfully. The church, which belongs to God, and the public library, which belongs to you. Public library is the great equalizer." Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Grace Murphy, who's speaking, our treasurer of the Friends of Cary Library.
On behalf of the Friends of Cary Memorial Library, I would like to offer our heartfelt congratulations to the library staff, trustees, and patrons on this occasion of the 150th anniversary. We are truly fortunate to have such an amazing resource in the town. In fact, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Friends as well. So thank you to all of you who have supported the Friends over the years. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Friends, we are dedicated to supplementing and enhancing the library services. In particular, we provide funding for additions to the print, electronic, and audiovisual collection. We fund the summer reading program and LexMedia, and we fund the Museum Pass program. Our primary means of fundraising is through memberships, donations, and book sales. We have a bookstore and children's cart in the library, and we have a twice-a-year book sale. We accept book donations at the back entrance, and this is how we stock our bookstore and book sales. So please drop off your used books. We have a tent over here with some giveaways, so please stop by to say hello. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome Jerry Zeter, speaking on behalf of the Cary Memorial Library Foundation.
Hi, everyone. How wonderful it is to be together to celebrate the 150th birthday of Cary Library. I'm Jerry Zeter, president of the Cary Memorial Library Foundation. We'll be holding a gala for the library's 150th birthday in March, and I hope you can all come. The foundation is a nonprofit organization that does fundraising for Cary Library. Now, the word fundraising isn't a very exciting word, so as I thought about what I wanted to say today, I went to the foundation's archives for inspiration and came across a bit of history. In 1868, when Mariah Hastings Carey challenged the town to raise money to start a public library, the farmers and blacksmiths and tavern owners of Lexington rose to the occasion, stocking their new library with 1,200 books. And when this very building first opened in 1906 to serve Lexington's small farming community of 2,250 people, there was no public water supply, no sewage system, no street lights, but there was a free public library for all. So much has changed in 150 years, but this has not. We are still proud of our wonderful library. We still sustain it, grow it, and propel it into the future, not only with our tax dollars, but with our gift of donations. We still as a community value learning and culture and sharing thoughts and ideas. May we continue to do so for the next 150 years. Thank you, Lexington, for making this day possible, and happy birthday, Cary Library.
All right, and now the moment we've all been waiting for. It's my privilege to welcome to the podium here Regie Gibson, who is no stranger to all of you. He's a resident of Lexington, a performer, a poet, an educator, a musician, a songwriter, and he's also the Cary Library's first poet in residence. And he's going to honor us today with a composition.
Well, good afternoon to all. I want to thank Joe for starting us off speaking about our fears in 1919 that radio was going to take away our love of books. And I'll remind you that Socrates also felt that that whole book and literacy thing was going to be the death of human knowledge. He was wrong. I also want to thank the Madrigals for beginning us, as all days should begin, with poetry. Poetry sang by, that is written by Gerard Manley Hopkins, who was a Jesuit priest, who brought together both our spiritual and our physical dimensions to show us how to better walk through the world. And we would not, of course, know about his work had he not written it down and put it in a book. So take that, Mr. Socrates. And guess where you can find Gerard Manley Hopkins' work? Right here, in Cary Library. A couple of quotes, both from Thomas Jefferson. Educate and inform the whole mass of the people. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects to what never was and what will never be. Mariah Hastings Carey, as some of you have heard, having a regard for my native place and wishing to promote its welfare by diffusing knowledge among its inhabitants, I desire to make through you the following proposition: a free public library open to all the inhabitants of the town. And finally, from several Lexington 6, 11, 18, 25, 43, and 80-year-olds, I love this place. Welcome, stranger, friend, book traveler, you whose feet and fate have led you here. Know that there are generations stitched in these stones. Volumes of past voices heavy with history hovering in this very air you now breathe. It began with words, with language, with human story, knowledge, wisdom passed down from mouth to waiting ear until they flowed like river, ancient as the world, older than the flow of human blood in human veins. It began like so many things begin, with a woman, with a will that opens a door, a book, a mind, with a woman, with a need to plant a seed that will grow and blossom in a tomorrow that she would never see. This is her legacy, Cary Memorial Library. This is no mere repository of aged page and leather-bound book. This is home to memory and culture, history and future. And it asks that you travel through it and look. Look at the young mouths with missing front teeth, slacked and agape at the flick of a fin's movement. A race to the aquarium where nose and eyelash press against thick glass and mouths sound out the scientific names of fish. Hear the scamper of legs, excited for music or story time. The exuberant hellos from and for librarians, those well-read book jugglers tossing multitudes of titles in their heads. Virgilian guides, joy listening to kids talking of what they've read, or nostalgically smiling as they watch 6-year-olds spread quietly on couches and cushions, reading books they themselves loved as children. See children leading each other hand by tiny hand through colorful columns of book spines, pink t-shirts and cargo pants, weaving and giggling through aisles, ponytails and pigtails, cowlicks, crew cuts and cornrows, leaning into a mother as she reads aloud, her finger pointing to each syllable, a small lip flex, stretch, rounds, practicing the spell sound of consonant and vowel. Look, another young face, soon to butterfly into knowledge. Look, there, in the eyes. See the mind wings emerging, beginning to unfold. That is the alchemy that turns lead into gold. The magic that makes children see endless possibilities they impatiently wait for the rest of us to realize. Yes, beneath this red tiled roof, beneath this historic sky, you will find a community of widened eyes, where teenagers gather together into a live hive, abuzz with pizza and pimples, braces and brash, Listen to their fast-paced conversations, their whiplash of sentences exploding into paragraphs of adolescent laughter. Witness how they self-create, help one another try and find their way in a world in which they often feel they have no place. But yet, they claim this place, this space. They say, this is where we are in sanctuary, where we can find what we need, even if we need nothing but to hang and play games, talk, read, and center. This is our place. Adult, please do not enter this part of our lives. It's here we come to hide from the stress and the strife when the academic race seems so long, or when we are told we've somehow been running it all wrong. This space, our escape from the discord of a world demanding we dance to its song. We come here when we are exhausted, feel lost and alone, and home has become chaos and cacophony. This is our place where we can be with friends, each of them an origamic complexity, each of us an intricacy of Legos, seeking connections, curious as to what shapes we can make of ourselves. This is our place, the place where we sometimes must be, the place we want our future kids to come so they can just be. Yes, this place of books is more than books. It is memory and culture, history and future, constantly igniting curiosity, fostering knowledge, creating community. Move through it, see its spirit embodied in the elder whose mind is vivid with the 1940s, vivid with his father bringing him here to read him stories before heading to work because he knew he would not come back home in time to tuck him in. His father doing all the characters' voices while he, a 5-year-old child, giggled at how his father's accent colored every word Irish. It is embodied in a grandmother recalling the late 1950s when she, a Catholic teenage girl, fell in love with a Jewish boy. A love that at that time could not be. Her eyes glistening as she tells how they sat together, held hands beneath wooden tables, and explored first kisses between book-lined shelves, sheltered from the orthodox eyes of synagogue and church. It is door-to-door delivery to the housebound, those who cannot walk or drive, bringing Braille or the recorded word to the blind, or those whose eyes have clouded but can now crawl inside the human voice and return to an ancient time when our ancestors told us tales that strengthened us and bound us into tribe. This place is a blessing, they say. Our doorway to the world, they say. Without it, we'd be in an awful state, unable to participate in intellectual life. This library is a happiness. Move through. Open yourself and hear the new, the recent immigrant or refugee, new languages bringing their various richnesses, Sanskrit and Hebrew, Mandarin and Telugu, Tamil and Russian, Arabic and Greek, German, Bengali, Korean, Marathi, Hindi, Italian, French and Portuguese, Turkish, Swedish, Taiwanese, Finnish, Spanish, Vietnamese, each adding their voices and stories and songs to this rare air we breathe. Move through. See the couple who first came here with their children in 1972, who, since becoming empty nesters and moving away, come back to donate books because of that librarian who long ago welcomed them and treated them with such kindness, the first kindness of many. Listen to the desk gossipers, patrons who, at checkout, join in librarians' conversations and become fast friends. Listen to the mothers that walk here on mornings to talk here after their kids have gone off to school. Mothers desperately in need of adult conversation about anything except parenting, kids, and school. Chance into conversations, discussions at the bookstore of politics and science, Emerson and self-reliance, Shakespeare, cooking, history, interesting biographies that change the way you see things as knowledge bursts against the mind's nighttime like fireworks on the 4th of July. Notice the middle-aged woman there studying for her college degree, her mechanical pencil a yellow blur as she scribbles marginalia. See the man in mid-career brushing up his CV, searching the internet for job opportunities. Or the retired teacher with stacks of books who uses those to tutor those who want their GED so they can aspire, can aim higher, like her, who grew up having only had access to a mobile library that came by her school every 6 to 8 weeks, and now sits in an aisle in the poetry section surrounded by verse, her thin legs crossed, her brain soaring through vistas of imagination, even as she angles how to take more poems home than she can carry. This place holds a very special place in my heart, she says. It's like a gift from heaven. Whether we are of no religion or are devoted to church, mosque, or temple, here at Cary Memorial Library, we are all people of the book. Potential pilgrims taking part in a journey to bring a community, a nation, a democratic republic to its higher, transcendent civic self, where all can stand in the light of our most sacred, self-evident truths. But this place did not happen on its own, did not grow on its own. It did not become what it has become on its own. It is what it is because of those who are who they are, because of decades of citizens serving in silence, unknown, unnamed, unsung volunteers who give mind and heart and hands and countless hours meeting in small rooms to launch big ideas. Cart pushers, stocking shelves, fundraisers and book sales, multi-generational donors and endowments, friends, foundation and trustees closely watching how every dollar and dime gets spent. And the custodial caretakers, toiling nightly, putting in light bulbs, turning a wrench, fixing what needs fixing, handling brooms, mops, and pails, taking great care to muscle things clean. All of this is the slow work, the you'll never know work, the unglorified mean work, the often unnoticed and unseen work of those that daily endeavor to uphold the scaffolding that holds this place we all love together. Cary Memorial Library. Oh, its location and appearance may change. Shelves will be moved, books renumbered, reordered, and rearranged. Information technologies will push forward into new terrain. But its mission, as ever, will be the same. To remain a vibrant expression of Lexington life, strengthened by memory, preserving of culture, rooted in history, stretching toward the future, growing and adjusting to the ever-evolving needs of Lexingtonians that we today will never see, will never know. But through our legacy, through what we leave behind, will know us, through what we will them. This place where knowledge, learning, and intellectual democracy have a home. May one day its future air hang heavy with volumes of our voices. May one day our generation be stitched in these stones.
Wow. I think that Reggie's words have done this place justice. Thank you for everything you do to be a part of it. Now, the Madrigals.
Happy birthday to